The smell of roasted lamb hung heavy in the air, thick with the unspoken expectations that coated every surface in the Ellis family dining room. Crystal glasses gleamed under the chandelier, reflecting the strained smiles. Across the polished mahogany table, my brother Lucas beamed, holding court about the final stages of setting up his private practice. My parents nodded, eyes shining with paternal pride. This was their masterpiece, their golden child, the embodiment of everything they valued: prestige, stability, a real career. My stomach churned, a knot of nerves and anticipation. Tonight was it. I cleared my throat, the sound tiny in the cavernous room. Mom, Dad, Lucas. I have some news. Their attention shifted, polite but wary. My dad, Mr. Ellis, adjusted his tie, a familiar pre-bad news ritual. My mom, perfectly coiffed, offered a tight smile. Yes, Chloe? Done with your phase. I ignored the jab. It's not a phase. And it's big. I've been accepted into the residency program at the Digital Canvas Collective in San Francisco. It's highly competitive. Only a handful of artists get in. It's unpaid, but the mentorship and exposure are incredible. The lead artist worked on Chronicles of Etheria. I leaned forward, heart pounding. I need help with living expenses for the 6 months, just until I can build connections and start getting paid freelance work. The collective thinks I have real potential. Silence descended, heavy and suffocating. Lucas's smile faltered slightly, replaced by a polite, condescending frown. San Francisco? Unpaid? Chloe, be serious. That's playing video game drawings, isn't it? My mom sighed, a dramatic, put-upon sound. Oh, Chloe, we just discussed this. Lucas is opening his practice. Do you have any idea how much that costs? The equipment, the office space, the malpractice insurance. It's hundreds of thousands of dollars. A real investment in a real future. But this is real too. I protested, my voice rising. This is my future. They see potential. Mrs. Albright from the Arts Council saw my work at the local show last month. Even she said I have a unique eye for world building. Dad steepled his fingers. Mrs. Albright is a lovely woman, dear, but she runs a community craft center. Lucas is becoming a surgeon. There's a difference. We've made our decision. Every spare dollar is going to support Lucas's practice. There's nothing left for whatever this is. He gestured vaguely at the tablet I'd hoped to show them my portfolio on. Nothing left. My voice was hollow. You'll spend $500,000 on his practice, but you won't help me with basic rent for 6 months to pursue a legitimate opportunity? Legitimate. Mom's voice hardened. Look at yourself, Chloe. Almost 22, talking about unpaid residencies and video game art. When I was your age, I was supporting your father and planning our life. Lucas has a clear path. You're chasing pipe dreams. It's not a pipe dream. Tears welled in my eyes, hot and angry. This is my passion. This is what I'm good at. Lucas leaned back, radiating smug reassurance. Chloe, we want what's best for you. And what's best isn't messing around with doodles while the rest of us are building careers. My vision blurred. Doodles? Is that what you think this is? Years of work, learning software, honing my skills. It's all just doodles to you. Dad's voice was firm, final. Chloe, we've been clear. This is not a financially viable path. Not something we will support. If you are determined to pursue this fantasy, you will have to do it on your own. We are cutting you off. My breath hitched. Cutting me off? Just like that. Just like that, Mom confirmed, her eyes cold. If you refuse to be reasonable, you can't expect us to fund your unreasonableness. If you walk out that door chasing this delusion, don't expect to walk back and asking for help. Something inside me snapped. The hurt, the frustration, the years of feeling secondary to Lucas, it all boiled over. Fine. I choked out, pushing back from the table. Keep your money. Keep your real careers and your perfect little life. I'll make it on my own. With what? Dad scoffed again. You have no savings, no connections in that industry. You have nothing. I have talent. I yelled, tears streaming down my face now. And I have determination. And that is enough. I ran upstairs, the sound of their hushed, perhaps relieved, Voices following me. I threw clothes, my old laptop, the one they thought wasn't good enough, and my precious drawing tablet, the heart of my work, into a battered suitcase. I hesitated, looking at stacks of sketch pads, external hard drives filled with years of projects. I couldn't take it all. Maybe I could come back for it? No. The look in their eyes, this was final. Dragging the heavy suitcase, I went downstairs. They were still at the table, the air thick with the aftermath of the confrontation. Lucas was saying something about a new piece of medical equipment. They barely looked up. I walked out the front door and kept walking. The late summer air was cool, but my face burned. At the end of the street, near the garbage bins, I stumbled. My old laptop, already fragile, clattered inside the suitcase. I pulled it out, despair washing over me. It was cracked. Years of early work. Maybe some irreplaceable brushes I'd created, potentially lost. In a moment of raw, heartbroken fury, I opened the suitcase and pulled out a few of my oldest printed sketch pads, the ones I'd shown them. Doodles, they'd called them. Worthless. With trembling hands, I tore pages, tossing them towards the bins, a pointless, childish act of defiance and despair. "Excuse me." I spun around, startled. An older woman, elegant in a simple but chic trench coat, was standing a few feet away, looking towards the bins. It was Mrs. Albright. She walked closer, peering at the scattered papers. "Are these design sketches?" I flushed, mortified. "They're nothing," I mumbled, scrambling to pick up the torn pages, ink bleeding on some from where my tear had dropped. "Just silly drawings," my parents said. She picked up one page gently, a detailed concept sketch of a fantastical creature's armor. Her eyes, kind but sharp, scanned it. "Silly? This is remarkable. The detail, the imagination, the structural sense. Who taught you this?" "No one," I whispered. "Just taught myself. Online tutorials, practice." She looked from the sketch to my tear-streaked face, the overloaded suitcase. Understanding dawned in her eyes. She didn't pry. Instead, she reached into her bag and pulled out a small, elegant card. "Eleanor Albright," she said softly, handing it to me. "I run the local arts council, among other things. We have connections. Resources for artists just starting out. There's a wonderful online community, the Digital Forge. They offer peer critiques, mentorship, sometimes even small grants or leads on paid gigs. It's how many of us got started. Please," she pressed the card into my hand. "Don't let anyone tell you this is silly. Talent like this is rare. Connect with us. Don't throw it away." Behind me, the front door of my old house opened, laughter spilling out. A perfect family moment, minus the discarded daughter. "Thank you," I managed, clutching the card like a lifeline. Mrs. Albright smiled gently. "The world needs dreamers, child. Especially those who can build them visually. Don't give up." She squeezed my shoulder lightly and walked away. I stood there, card in hand, watching her go, then looking back at the house. The warm, inviting light spilling from the windows felt like a cruel mockery. My family, celebrating their real future. My future felt uncertain, terrifying. But for the first time that night, a tiny spark of hope flickered. Mrs. Albright's words echoed. "Don't let anyone tell you this is silly. Talent like this is rare." I tightened my grip on the card in my suitcase and walked away, towards the bus stop, towards a future I had to build entirely from scratch. San Francisco wasn't the glamorous city of artistic dreams I'd imagined. It was expensive, competitive, and indifferent. Mrs. Albright's contact led to the Digital Forge, an online forum that was helpful, but rent still needed paying. Those first few months were a blur of exhaustion and despair. I worked 2, sometimes 3, minimum wage jobs. Early mornings making coffee, afternoons stocking shelves at a massive electronics store, evenings cleaning offices. My tiny room in a shared apartment was barely big enough for a bed and a hand-me-down desk. The heating was unreliable, the internet spotty. After 10 or 12 hours on my feet, I'd drag myself back, eat instant noodles, and force myself to turn on my crack-screen laptop. My hands would ache, my eyes burned, but I'd open my design software. This was my only chance. This was my act of defiance. I joined forums, participated in free online collaborations, offered small pieces of art for free to gain visibility. Slowly, painstakingly, I started posting my finished concept pieces on ArtStation and DeviantArt under the name Pixel Wraith. The anonymity felt necessary, a shield. And also a little exciting. No one here knew the girl who scrubbed toilets or served bad coffee. They only saw the art. The initial response was disheartening. A few likes from other struggling artists, the occasional generic cool pic. Moments of crippling doubt would creep in. Maybe they were right. Maybe this was silly. Maybe I should just get a real job. Something stable, something that paid the bills without this constant, soul-crushing effort. I'd scroll through social media and see my family's carefully curated posts about Lucas's successful practice, dinners out, vacations. It felt like they were living in a different universe. The bitterness was a constant, dull ache. One particularly bleak evening, my laptop crashed, taking hours of unsaved work with it. I just sat on the floor of my tiny room and cried, the kind of heartbroken sobs that shake your whole body. I was tired. So tired. But the next morning, I got up, went to work, saved enough for a cheap external monitor, and started over. Mrs. Albright's words, the look in her kind eyes, the memory of my parents' dismissal, they were the small, persistent flames that kept me going. Slowly, things began to change. A small indie game developer reached out through ArtStation, offering a tiny paid commission for a character design. Then another. The pay was minimal, barely covering the cost of electricity, but it was real. It was proof. I started getting noticed in specific online communities. People commented on my unique style, my attention to detail, the originality of my creature and environment designs. The number of followers on my ArtStation page crept up hundreds, then thousands. One day, an email arrived that made my heart stop. It was from the producer of a popular online gaming community and streaming channel. They were launching a major new project and wanted a series of high-impact concept art pieces for their announcement trailer and promotional materials. They loved Pixel Wraith's portfolio. They offered a substantial sum. I stared at the number, my hands shaking. It was more money than I'd made in the last 6 months combined. This was it. The breakthrough. Working on that project was intense. I quit one of my jobs to free up time, but I still worked 15-hour days, fueled by cheap coffee and sheer adrenaline. The pressure was immense, but the excitement was even greater. I was creating art for an audience who appreciated it. When the announcement trailer dropped, featuring my artwork prominently, the response was immediate and overwhelming. My ArtStation and DeviantArt inboxes exploded. Commissions, collaboration requests, fan art of my art. Pixel Wraith was suddenly a known name in the online art world. I was completely overwhelmed. I was still working my remaining jobs, trying to keep up with the deluge of inquiries. I needed help. Scrolling through my old contacts one night, exhausted, I saw Riley's name. Riley Jensen. We'd been friends in high school, drifted apart when she went off to college to study marketing and communications. I knew she worked in the tech industry now, doing something with PR or community management. On a whim, I sent her a message. We met for coffee, ironically, at a place much nicer than the one I used to work at. I showed her my Pixel Wraith profiles, the viral trailer, the mountain of unread messages and requests. Riley's eyes widened as she scrolled through it all. Chloe. Oh my God. This is you? I saw that trailer. Everyone's talking about the art. This is incredible. She looked up at me, really looked at me. But you're still working there? She gestured vaguely towards the street, where I'd probably come from one of my jobs. I laughed, a little bitterly. Yeah. Turns out viral fame doesn't pay the rent automatically. Not when you're trying to manage it all yourself. Riley leaned forward, her expression serious. Chloe, you're sitting on a gold mine, but you're treating it like a lemonade stand. You need a brand strategy, a proper business structure, client management, pricing models, everything. You can't do this alone. She paused. Let me help you. I can build this into something massive. Give me 10% equity in whatever this becomes. I'll make it my full-time job. I didn't hesitate. I trusted Riley. She understood the industry. She understood business. "Deal," I said, shaking her hand. "Welcome to Wraith Digital." Within months, Riley transformed Pixel Wraith from a popular online artist into a burgeoning brand. She set up a sleek website, streamlined the commission process, negotiated better rates, and, crucially, leaned into the anonymity. The mysterious Pixel Wraith became a selling point, fueling curiosity, making the art the sole focus. "The work speaks for itself," Riley marketed, and it resonated. Wraith Digital, the company, started to take shape. We hired a small team of project managers and junior artists to help handle the workload. We moved into a small, but professional office space. Our client list grew, including major players in the gaming and tech industries. Our success attracted attention from investors. Riley and I met with several firms, but Kays and Hayes felt different. Kays, sharp and analytical, saw the unique market position and the growth potential. Hayes, quieter but perceptive, seemed genuinely intrigued by the creative vision. Their offer was substantial, providing the capital we needed to scale up rapidly. The key condition? Ms. Wraith must remain anonymous. Kays explained it plainly. "Your anonymity is an asset. It creates mystique, keeps the focus purely on the product, and allows for strategic control. We're investing in the brand and the talent, not a public personality." Sitting in the polished conference room, listening to Kays, I felt a chill run down my spine. Anonymity. It had started as a shield, become a marketing tool, and now it was the foundation of my growing empire. The perfect cover. A bitter smile touched my lips. They wanted the mysterious Ms. Wraith? Fine. The less anyone knew the girl behind the art, the better. Especially my family. I signed the contract. Checking my parents' social media later that night, the irony was almost unbearable. Lucas had just been featured in a local magazine profile about young doctors. My parents were gushing online about their successful children. Children. Plural. A word they hadn't used in reference to me in years, not in a positive context. They still believed I was somewhere struggling, perhaps even homeless, because I chose silly drawings over a real career. Little did they know, those silly drawings were building an empire from which I could watch their carefully constructed world. Wraith Digital grew exponentially. We expanded our services, hiring more artists, designers, technical staff. We moved into larger offices, eventually taking up multiple floors in a modern building. I learned to be a CEO, leading teams, making tough business decisions, navigating complex deals. Riley became my indispensable COO, handling the day-to-day operations and business strategy. Kays and Hayes remained involved as board members, representing the investors, generally pleased with our performance. Serenity joined us as my executive assistant, a young bright-eyed graduate who managed access to the elusive Ms. Wraith. 8 years. 8 years since I walked out that door. 8 years since they cut me off. Wraith Digital was now a multi-million-dollar company, respected and influential in the industry. Pixel Wraith's art was iconic, instantly recognizable. One afternoon, Kays came into my office, a folder in his hand. "Chloe," he said, using my real name, which he and Riley only used in private or during sensitive internal discussions. "We just finalized the acquisition of Sterling Financial Holdings." I raised an eyebrow. "The portfolio management firm? Interesting move, Kays." "Diversifying." "Partly," he said, sitting down. "They had some valuable data analytics tech we wanted. But in the process of integrating their systems and reviewing assets, we found something. Something related to you." My heart gave a sudden jolt. Related to me? He opened the folder, sliding a document across my desk. It was a risk assessment report from Sterling Financial. They had a portfolio of high-risk business loans and leveraged investments. One, in particular, flagged during our review. "It's tied to a medical practice. A Dr. Lucas Ellis." My breath hitched. "Sterling didn't originate the loan," Case continued, his voice carefully neutral. "But they acquired the debt from the original bank a few years ago as part of a package deal. It's in significant distress. Multiple missed payments. Covenant breaches. The collateral is the primary residence of Mr. and Mrs. Ellis. My parents' house. The house I grew up in. The house they re-leveraged to fund Lucas's practice. Lucas's practice isn't doing well, Kay stated factually. He seems to have over-leveraged himself, maybe made some poor investment decisions alongside the practice setup. There are whispers. Legal challenges. He's been borrowing heavily, trying to stay afloat. Lucas, the golden child. His foundation was crumbling. And my company, through a random acquisition, held the strings. Riley walked in then, a stack of contracts in her hand, stopping short when she saw the look on my face and the folder on my desk. What's going on? Case quickly explained. Riley's face shifted from confusion to shock to a dawning understanding. Their house. Riley whispered. The house they kicked you out of? I didn't speak. I pulled up my family's social media on my private screen. Lucas had recently posted a photo looking sharp in his scrubs, talking about a challenging but rewarding week. My mother had commented, "So proud of my brilliant surgeon son. Hard work pays off." Hard work. Pay off. Sterling Financial was already preparing foreclosure proceedings, Kay said, bringing me back to the present. Now that we own the asset, the decision is ours. We can foreclose immediately, restructure the debt, or something else. The silence stretched. I looked at Lucas's smiling face on the screen, my parents' proud comments. I remembered the coldness in their eyes that night, the word doodles, the casual dismissal of my entire being. I remembered the crying on my floor, the broken laptop, the sheer abject terror of being utterly alone with nothing but my silly drawings. Riley watched me, her expression worried. "Chloe, what are you going to do?" I leaned back in my chair, the city skyline glittering outside my floor-to-ceiling windows. Power hummed beneath my fingertips. The power of Wraith Digital, the power built stitch by stitch, pixel by pixel, in the quiet hours nobody saw. They bet everything on Lucas, I said, my voice quiet but firm. And they threw me away. No. I own the table they made that bet on. Riley swallowed. Chloe, this is their house. Your home. It stopped being my home the night they kicked me out, I replied, the coldness settling deep in my bones. It's just a collateral now. I turned to Case. Confirm the terms. Are there any clauses that allow the lender to adjust interest rates or payment schedules under new ownership? Case checked the documents. Yes. Standard clause. We have the legal right to adjust terms with 30 days' notice. Do it, I said. Riley gasped softly. Triple their monthly payments. Effective immediately. Give them the maximum pressure the contract allows. Chloe, are you sure? Riley asked, her voice laced with apprehension. This is harsh. Justice is rarely gentle, Riley, I said, my gaze fixed on the distant horizon. They wanted to see where my path would lead? Let's show them where their path, the one they were so proud of, has led them. The next few weeks were a strange mix of running a multi-million-dollar company and orchestrating a very personal form of retribution. Case handled the formal notification, a cold, legal letter delivered to my parents' doorstep. I imagined their faces reading the new, exorbitant payment amount. Lucas, scrambling to find funds, probably realizing the full depth of the hole he was in. Their attempts to fight back were almost comical. They contacted the loan servicer, demanding to speak to a supervisor, then the CEO. They were met with polite, corporate walls. Wraith Digital does not handle personal appeals, I heard one representative tell my father on a recorded line Case provided me. Ms. Wraith does not take unsolicited meetings. The accidental slip of the parent company's name caused a flurry of panicked Google searches from their IP address that Case tracked. Wraith Digital CEO, Ms. Wraith contact, Pixel Wraith owner. They were starting to connect the dots, but not the right ones. Lucas, leveraging his dwindling professional network, tried to reach out through intermediaries. We got calls and emails from people vaguely connected to Wraith Digital through the tech or investment world, asking if Ms. Wraith would take a quick meeting as a favor for a mutual acquaintance. Riley expertly deflected them all, following my instructions to make them sweat. My mother sent a tearful, rambling email to a generic info@wraithdigital.com address, which Serenity flagged. It was a plea for leniency, emphasizing their status, Lucas's temporary setbacks, and how they were good, hardworking people who made sacrifices for their children's futures. Reading it, I felt a surge of the old pain, quickly followed by cold fury. They still didn't get it. Sacrifices? Like sacrificing one child's future for another? They've formally requested a meeting, Serenity announced one morning, her voice slightly unsure. The Ellis family. They submitted a written appeal and asked for a personal meeting with Ms. Wraith. Riley looked at me, her expression a mix of dread and anticipation. Are you going to see them? Oh yes, I said, a slow smile spreading across my face. I'm going to see them. But not yet. Let them stew for another week. Let them imagine who Ms. Wraith might be. Let them rehearse their pleas. I spent the next week preparing. Not just the financial details, Kay's had everything documented, but myself. I worked with a top stylist and makeup artist. Not to create a disguise, but to embody the full, unassailable power of Ms. Wraith. Sharp lines, expensive fabrics, makeup that enhanced rather than concealed, projecting confidence and authority. I wanted them to see the apex of the mountain built from their silly drawings. Riley was nervous. Chloe, are you ready for this? Facing them? After everything. I looked at my reflection. The woman staring back was polished, successful, formidable. She was the result of years of relentless work, fueled by pain and determination. They erased me once, Riley, I said quietly. Now I get to show them exactly what they tried to bury. A few days before the meeting, Serenity came into my office, holding a familiar, tattered sketchpad page. Ms. Noir, she said, sometimes she used that, a leftover from early internal branding discussions before we settled on Wraith Digital. It felt fittingly enigmatic. I was organizing some old files from the Sterling acquisition, and I found this among some miscellaneous personal effects they must have acquired somehow. It's amazing. My blood ran cold. It was the sketch of the fantasy armor, torn at the edges. The ink slightly bled, the one I'd thrown towards the bins that night. How? There was a note with it, Serenity continued, oblivious to my shock. From an Eleanor Albright. It says, found near my home years ago. Recognize true talent when you see it. Don't give up. She must have seen it and kept it. Serenity paused. Oh, I read she passed away recently. She was quite a figure in the local art scene. My chest tightened. Mrs. Albright. She had seen me, believed in me, kept that small, damaged piece of my discarded dream. The lifeline she'd offered that night had meant everything. And now she was gone, but her belief remained. It felt like a sign. The circle closing. Thank you, Serenity, I managed, taking the sketch from her. It felt both fragile and incredibly strong in my hands. That will be all. I sat there for a long time, looking at the sketch, thinking about the struggling girl who created it, the kind woman who saved it, and the powerful woman it helped become. The day of the meeting arrived. The conference room was set exactly as I requested, the temperature cool, almost clinical. I reviewed the files with Kay's and Riley one last time. Everything was watertight. Lucas's financial reports, the loan documents, the timeline of missed payments, the legal basis for the rate increase and foreclosure. I watched on the security feed as they arrived. My parents looked strained, trying to appear composed. My mother clutched her signature pearl necklace. My father looked older, his suit slightly ill-fitting. Lucas was with them, looking pale and uncomfortable, his usual arrogance replaced by visible anxiety. He kept adjusting his tie, a mirror of my father's old habit. Riley squeezed my arm. Ready? I took a deep breath, smoothing down my custom-made suit, tailored to project authority. It was time. I walked into the conference room silently. They looked up, startled, their eyes fixing on me, Ms. Wraith. I let the silence hang in the air for a long moment, allowing the power of the moment to settle. Mr. and Mrs. Ellis. Mr. Lucas Ellis, I said, my voice calm, clear, and commanding. Please sit. They sat, their movements stiff. My father cleared his throat. Ms. Wraith, thank you for seeing us. We wanted to appeal regarding the unfortunate situation with our loan. There must be some misunderstanding. There's no misunderstanding, Mr. Ellis, I stated, opening the file. Your loan is in severe default. 3 months past due. Multiple breaches of terms. Your current monthly payment reflects the contractual rate adjustment under the terms of new ownership. All perfectly legal and documented. My mother twisted her pearls. But we've always been good customers. Hard-working people. We made sacrifices for our children's futures. Sacrifices, I echoed, the word tasting like ash on my tongue. I slid Lucas's financial report across the table. Speaking of futures, this is the performance report for Dr. Lucas Ellis's practice. Significant debt, poor revenue, impending legal actions. It appears the investment you made wasn't as sound as you believed. Lucas's face went ashen. How did you get this? Wraith Digital has extensive resources, Mr. Ellis. I replied coolly. When people owe us money or are tied to assets that do, we make it our business to know everything. I paused, letting it sink in. Including Mr. and Mrs. Ellis, the extent to which your financial ruin is directly tied to your son's failing venture. My father bristled. Our family matters are private. Not when those matters involve assets securing a loan owned by my company, I countered, my voice unwavering. I leaned forward slightly. Let's talk about choices. About investments. You invested everything in this future. I gestured to Lucas, who flinched. And you chose to dismiss other paths. My mother's eyes narrowed, a flicker of suspicion. What do you mean? What other paths? I picked up the old, torn sketch from my desk and held it up. The fantasy armor gleamed faintly under the office lights. This, I said softly, was called a silly drawing. The work of a delusional child. Worthless. My voice hardened. You said it wasn't a real career. You cut off support. You kicked me out. Their eyes widened. Disbelief warred with a dawning, horrible realization. My mother's hand flew to her mouth. My father stared, speechless. Lucas looked between me and the sketch, his eyes wide with shock. Chloe. My mother whispered, her voice trembling. I met her gaze, my own eyes cold and clear. Hello, Mom. Dad. Lucas. The silence that followed was deafening, broken only by my mother's stifled sob. You're Ms. Wraith? Lucas stammered, the arrogance completely gone, replaced by stunned horror. Pixel Wraith. The very same, I confirmed. Built an empire, as you see. From silly drawings. While the real career you championed crumbled. But why? My father finally found his voice, though it cracked. Why are you doing this? Why? I stood up, walking to the window, looking out at the city I had conquered. Because choices have consequences. You chose status over talent. You chose tradition over passion. You chose one child and discarded another. And you made it clear that night that my dreams were worthless to you. That I was worthless unless I fit your mold. I turned back to face them. Now, my worthless dreams own the deed to the house you leveraged for your valuable son. That's why. My mother started to cry openly. But, we're family. Chloe, please. We can work something out. You can't do this. Family. I scoffed, a sharp, painful sound. I walked back to my desk and pressed a button on my tablet. The large display screen on the wall lit up, cycling through photos and social media posts from the past 8 years. Family photos with an obvious absence. Posts praising Lucas's success, often layered with subtle, or not so subtle digs at less conventional paths. Comments from relatives reinforcing the family's pride in their one successful child. This is your definition of family, I said, my voice cold. The one that celebrated my absence. The one that pretended I didn't exist unless it was to mock my efforts. You don't get to claim family now, not when it's convenient. I picked up their appeal letter from the desk, the one pleading for mercy for a promising young attorney. They hadn't even gotten his profession right in their desperation, or perhaps deliberately misled the acquired firm, and their sacrifices. I dropped it back onto the table. Your appeal is denied, I stated formally. The foreclosure process will proceed as scheduled. You have 30 days to vacate the property. Chloe, wait. Lucas cried out, half rising. We're sorry. We were wrong. I paused at the door, my hand on the handle. I looked at their faces, devastated, humbled, stripped bare of their arrogance. The satisfaction was immense, a wave washing over me. But beneath it, a deep, quiet sadness. This victory had cost me my family, whatever flawed version of it I once had. You were wrong, I agreed softly. But it's too late for sorry. I looked at Lucas. You wanted a real career? Live with the reality you built. I looked at my parents. You made your investment. See the return. I walked out, leaving them in the cold conference room, surrounded by the evidence of their mistakes and the power of the daughter they discarded. Riley met me outside the room, her face unreadable. Well, she asked. Tell Case to file the paperwork, I said, my voice flat. The foreclosure proceeds. I walked back to my office. The city glittered outside, a testament to the empire built from nothing. The revenge felt complete, and yet, it didn't fill the hole they had created years ago. Later that week, Riley showed me a news article. Prominent local doctor's practice fails, family home foreclosed. The details were clinical, but the implications were clear. Their public facade had shattered. I stood at my window, the torn sketch of the fantasy armor on my desk. Mrs. Albright's belief, Riley's partnership, Case's competence, Serenity's loyalty, these were the true foundations of my success. Not the blood ties that had been severed so brutally. There was talk in the industry. Rumors swirled about the identity of Ms. Wraith. The Elises, stripped of their home and prestige, were no longer the standard bearers of success. Their story, in hushed tones, became a cautionary tale about pride and misjudgment. Riley asked me again if I was ready to reveal who Pixel Wraith, who Ms. Wraith, truly was to the world. Step out of the shadows. I considered it. The ultimate public validation. Showing everyone, not just my family, what silly drawings could become. Maybe, I thought. Maybe soon. The first step of the reckoning was complete. But the journey and the story of Chloe, the girl who became Ms. Wraith, was far from over. Empires weren't just built. They had to be claimed, defended, and sometimes revealed. The best way to show them what they threw away wasn't just taking their house. It was standing in the full light of the empire I built, on my own terms. And that, I knew, was a reveal best served when I was truly ready.